It's a great idea, Glenn. It's a great idea. Okay, what do you remember of what we did yesterday? Ah, someone's, A rhetorical question, don't need an answer. And then what do you more specifically remember about the ATM we finished with yesterday? And again, how do you remember it? Is it an idea? You sort of go, oh yeah, we did this and this and this. This step, this step, this step. Can you imagine yourself doing those steps? Get that sensory motor experience of doing them? So I think, I'm pretty sure I was getting, well, I had a little hissy fit last night. I don't know, Di, we must have just been watching telly and I thought I'd better go and do something. Oh, we were watching the tennis because I was devastated that Rafa lost. Devastated. But, you know, when you watch him, he can't change direction easily anymore. It's really sad to see. If you know, and I've talked about this before, Rafa, like Roger Federer is the best organised tennis player I've ever seen. Rafa has this, Djokovic does this very interesting tip back of his head. If you've watched tennis, he often has his head here. I'd much rather it was here where Rogers is. And Rafa has a very particular side tilt that he does one way but not so clearly the other. And this comes back, we'll be exploring this a little bit more, this comes back to that talk Feldenkrais did the other day about accidents are not accidents, and these cardinal directions of the head and how we understand them in our organisation. So, you know, it's a really interesting thing. So anyway, all of a sudden I thought, oh, well, I better go and go through these lessons, and I go into my room and find that I've left all of them here. So I had an absolute hissy fit. And poor Di's going, it's okay, Julie, you know them. Going everywhere. And it wasn't until later when I'd calmed down a little bit, and of course I lay down and thought, because I do know these lessons, and went through them, didn't have the sequence, but thought, oh yeah, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. And all my anxiety disappeared. Well, a lot of it disappeared. So it is really interesting for me, being probably a little bit more of a head person than a sensory motor. So my default is to go head, thinking, but how coming back to this sensory motor experience can really help to settle me down. So can you remember what side we lay on yesterday? Right side lying? Okay, so lie on your right side. Take a moment or two just to really go through, and again we can say do it in your imagination. What we're looking for as you keep developing your skills is that your imagination is a sensory motor experience. So you can do it in your imagination, you can actually do the movement. But what are some of the moves you remember from yesterday? The lesson yesterday? Mhm. Mhm. And really feel, as you're going through them, what are you attending to? Are you attending to the mechanics of the movement? You know, did we lift the knee? Did we lift the foot? Oh, I think we lifted the whole leg. We did a little bit of bending everything and extending everything in our leg. So in the imagination, or in the recalling, in the reliving these movements, could it still be that foreground could be comfort and ease? Could foreground still be, I can do this, and especially if you're more imagining it, and my breathing can stay uninterrupted? That I'm more and more finding this ability to find within myself this ability that it's not the movement that's important. It's this ability to listen to myself and to more and more be interested in my comfort, my ease, and even my pleasure. How much of yourself can you include in your image? Are you finding curiosity and interest for yourself? Generating this for yourself? And leave that, and could you roll onto your other side, so onto your left side. And again, find that position. For your legs, and take a moment to explore, to find how it can be comfortable to find this sort of 45-degree angle of your hips and your knees, so your feet are more in line with, if you like, your sit bones and your spine. So it's like you've got a long vertical line going from your head, through your shoulders, through your hips, down to your ankles. Feeling where your left arm wants to be. So could you find If it's possible to find a way that your head can rest somewhere comfortably on your left arm. If you still need a towel, that's absolutely fine. Because that's what we're playing with. How, as we include more of ourselves, as we look more for comfort and ease, can we begin to find that some of these positions that maybe previously weren't as comfortable can become possibilities. And then very gently, slowly, easily, begin to lift your whole right leg away from your left. Notice, how do you do it? And again, so much of this lesson is about the beginning of the movement. This, how do you mobilize your intention? So one of the questions at the end of the lesson yesterday was, that when Trish got up at the end of the lesson, she said her underneath hip didn't feel that great. So one of the things is that often in an attempt to get our anti-gravity response, which is what we need to lighten our leg, we really press hard into the floor. It's like, just as Feldenkrais was talking yesterday, we post ourselves. Boom. Huh? So if you feel a part of you to lift that upper leg, especially your underneath hip is starting to really brace and push into the floor, let your weight shift just a little bit on that underneath hip. Or if it's your upper shoulder that's really getting posted into the floor, maybe if you just let your weight shift just a fraction so that you're not activating your habitual way of doing this. So again, you need to shift your weight just a little to lighten your leg. And if that's not clear to you, feel what happens if you lift your leg and you don't let your weight shift. Feel what happens if you really have the idea that you've got to stay absolutely posted to the ground. How heavy does your leg feel? I can always remember, and this is it was a physio continuing ed session, and they had the physio who worked with the dockers presenting, and it was the era when they were all getting, you can tell the sports I like, can't you? It was the era when they were all getting groin injuries. And, you know, it was, why are they all getting groin injuries? And so he was demonstrating all these movements that were meant to be strengthening the core. And it was just amazing because every single thing they got you to do, you had to post yourself. You had to keep your pelvis absolutely rooted in position so that your leg could learn all these strength activities. And I thought, gee, I could tell you one reason why you're getting quite a few groin injuries in your players. But it's really interesting, this idea of what we think stability is. And yet, you know, a baby has to learn from its earliest days that nothing happens unless I shift my weight. Nothing. So then as you continue to lift your leg, you might feel as you do this little weight shift, there's different things you can do. One of them might be that you just simply roll yourself, all of yourself a little bit forward. Maybe you roll yourself all a little bit back. But that could be one weight shift that you might do. Everything rolls a little forward to lift your leg. Everything might roll a little bit back to lift your leg. Another one might be that you get a little bit smaller to lift your leg. So something happens in your middle that you get a little bit smaller. Or maybe you get a little bit taller. They're all possibilities, and any combination of all of those as well. So again, there's not one right way to do it. And what we're exploring in these lessons is that you can find, first of all, your easy way, and then more options, more possibilities. So again, just finding a light, easy way to lift your leg and feel what the rest of you does to help support that. So that your whole leg can lightly and easily lift and lower. And all these individual configurations are due to or individual variations are all due to our individual configurations. Okay, so now that you're getting that idea of finding that nice light leg, think back to that movement that we finished, and you don't need to lift your leg to do this, but think back to that movement we finished with yesterday where every part of you was bending. So your hip was bending a little bit, your knee was bending a little bit, your ankle was bending a little bit. And then we were gently opening all those joints a little bit. Your hip was opening a little bit, your knee was opening a little bit, and your ankle was opening a little bit. And this was really giving you an opportunity to sense which of these joints are more in my image. And just be clear that your feet are back in line with your pelvis. Your feet are back in line. There, Margaret. Jane, feet back a little. So you've got the 45 here, but you need to bend your knees more. No? And really feel, does one of these make you a little bit smaller and one of them make you a little bit taller? Okay, so now you've got that. If you are now going to start to bring your right knee towards your chest, and it doesn't matter what trajectory it is, it's just that you're bringing it towards your chest in a way that you can find you could put your right hand below your right knee. You're bringing your right knee towards your chest, but don't forget that you've got a hip and an ankle as you do that. even though I've said right knee. And you're finding a trajectory to bring it in the direction towards your head, where you can find a way that your right hand can hold around the bottom of your right knee. So it'll be holding on the upper part of your right lower leg. So the front of the upper part of your right lower leg. So just below the knee, just below the knee. Take your time. How do you do this? What did you get yesterday from thinking about your hip and your knee and your ankle? So does it help if your foot flexes a little bit as well? What does that maybe allow? So again, it's so interesting language because, you know, we're talking now about the right knee and how quickly does that let you forget the other bits that you've been including in your image. So can you feel to make this easy? It's very much really including the movement that we did yesterday in the ATM. And as I said, don't feel that your knee has to stay parallel. Your knee could go, maybe for some of you it wants to go more toward the floor to find a way to hold underneath your knee. Maybe for some of you it wants to go more toward the ceiling. Do whatever you want to find a way for you to comfortably hold around your knee. Really exploring options. And what you're looking for is that your elbow's not bent, that you're not having to engage the muscles of your arm to get there, that your right arm can be long and soft. Again, what does your head do to do this? You involve your head. And again, as we go on, you might find that you start to have your leg in more positions, but at the moment, you're just finding where it's most easy for my right hand to hold around my right knee. So you're really distributing the work through all of you. Distributing the work. Okay, once you've found your position of comfort to do this, to have your right hand with the fingers, all of you have automatically put your thumb and your fingers together. So again, your knee might be more toward the ceiling, it might be more toward the floor. And now bring your knee more in the direction of your head from this position and just see what do you do, and then take it back to where it was resting. So you just slide, you're just moving, and as much as you can, your elbow stays straight. Your elbow stays straight. So you're not pulling with your arm, you're having to find something through the middle of you that can move. Okay, So then, can you begin to find a way, once we begin to mobilize the big muscles like this around your torso, your hips, your pelvis, could you find a way that as you bring your knee up towards your head, that can lighten your head in a way so that as the knee comes up, the head moves back, and as the knee goes down, your head gets pulled forward. So it's like there's a stick, if you like, between your head and your knee. So you're always holding, the constraint is your hand holds the knee, and as your knee pulls up in the direction of your head moves backwards, and as the knee goes down, your head gets pulled forward. So you can feel your head moving relative to your underneath shoulder. So you're really having to find here how you can move over your underneath shoulder. And pause. And again, it's really lovely to see that you're getting more and more strategies as you begin to feel that quality change, that again, you can just change your trajectory a little bit, shift your weight a little bit in a different way, change your orientation, include other parts of yourself in your image. Find a way for your breathing to be easy. Soften your intention, which usually means softening your eyes. Come back to that same position on your left. This time, leave your knee where it is, leave your leg where it is, and very gently begin to reach your right hand towards your knee. So don't think about getting there. This is not about getting to your knee. It's just feeling what needs to happen in my upper torso, in my head, for my right hand to reach toward my right knee. All those things that Arlene was talking about last week, about your sternum, your ribs, C7. And really feel as you do it, what do you do with your head? Does your chin move away from your chest? Does it move toward your chest? Does your head roll a little bit? So again, really allow your head to be free. So often intentionality, not only is it connected to our eyes not being soft, but something in our head. We lose possibilities of orientation, of directionality in our heads and our neck, which of course, when you pay attention, is in your breathing and your torso. Okay, so now could you combine those two movements, the flexing of the hip and the knee and the ankle, with the reaching of your right hand towards your knee. So you're finding that both the upper and the lower part of me are both involved here. And if both the upper and the lower part are doing something, something in your middle has to be able to change, has to be involved. You can do whatever you like, Carol. This is incredibly exploratory. No? Okay, so once you again have found that position of ease, begin to now move your knee and your head toward each other. So once you've found that position of your hand comfortably holding your knee, begin to feel you're moving your head and your knee a little bit closer to each other, so you're having to get a little bit smaller, and then take them a little bit back to the resting position. And there's no instruction here as to what plane you need to do this in. So what do I mean by that? So as you're bringing your knee and head closer to each other, you can roll a bit back, you can roll a bit forward, you can do whatever you like to find where can I most easily, without bending my knee, without bending my elbow, without bending my elbow, find a way that my head and my knee can come close together. And again, you're exploring how much is the bottom part of me doing, how much is the top part of me doing. So where will your head can't really stay resting on your arm. In the same position, if it's going to come closer to your knee. And most people are beginning to discover that if they allow themselves to roll back a little bit, their right knee to come more to the ceiling, that allows your back to round, to go back behind you a little bit. So that these flexors in front of you can do this quite complex movement of, even though your arm is straight, your chin and your chest can still move forward. So you're exploring, you're curious. How do I most easily bring my head and my knee toward each other? And you're playing. Can it be fun? So how do you lighten up your intention or the seriousness a little bit, and see if you can just lighten that a little? What softens in your chest or your belly or your throat? So you can play in a way that you roll backwards. You can also play in a way that you could roll forward. So that in one, your knee and your nose move more toward the floor as you're rolling forward. And in the other way, your knee and your nose move more toward the ceiling as you roll backwards. But you're always thinking that your knee and your nose are coming closer together and going apart. And have a rest on your back again. So Feldenkrais makes this big statement in this lesson, and I can actually remember hearing this when we did this lesson in my training from the tape. But that it's only when you bring this curiosity and playfulness, not having an expectation, that something new can emerge. As soon as you're in your pattern of doing, you've already engaged your intention in a particular way. So to find this lightness, this playfulness, this ability to look for this could be delicious. I'm just looking for ways to make this even more delicious. What can emerge then? Bend your right leg. Bend both legs. You can bend both legs. So bend your right leg. And again, you're finding a way. Be curious, be playful, to bring your right hand again in this same position to hold your right knee. And just notice that first mobilizing of your intention. Is it soft? Is your back soft? Do you have an idea that your knee has to lift straight up to your chest? Is that that you've constructed from what I've said? Oh, my knee has to move in this trajectory. My hand has to move in this trajectory. Or can you find that playful way of, I'm just thinking of finding where for me is it easiest to bring my hand to my knee. So my hand's from the outside of my knee, my wrist will be on the outside of my knee. And what does your head do to help you out there? And can you again find a way that your elbow is long, that you're not gripping with your arm? As soon as you grip, as soon as that elbow is bent, even if you're doing it softly, you've engaged an intentionality in your chest and your torso that we're trying to really back off from. So your arm is long and soft. And then once you've found a way to easily bring your hand to your knee, could you gently begin to move your knee a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left? So again, it's not really your knee, is it? It's you. You're moving you to take your knee a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. And how do you adapt to that? Again, what could your head do? Again, we've explored lots of options. Your chin can move a little bit away from your chest or towards your chest, which is flexion, extension. Your head could move to the side. It could side bend a little bit. It can turn a little bit. So you're really looking for, do I always want to do the same thing with my head? So your head is always staying on the floor if that's possible. And what do these different movements through your neck and your head allow to happen in your upper back, in your chest, in your belly? Feel how your weight rolls, shifts across you. How your left leg is helping to support this. And again, it's not supporting it by staying posted. And that you're really beginning to feel that if something's moving in my right hip, something needs to move in my left hip. If something's moving in my right shoulder, something needs to move in my left shoulder. Something's moving in my right ribs, something needs to be moving in my left ribs. How do we keep getting this image of all of ourselves in movement? Okay, so now from doing that, can you find a place to rest where your knee is more toward the ceiling? From doing those sort of variations, is it easier to feel now that you can find a place where your knee's more toward the ceiling? Your head might be off to the side to do that. So again, just check with your knee facing to the ceiling. Is your head still free? Can you still do a little yes, a little no? And then from this position with your knee above your chest, could you find now how you could bring your knee a little bit closer to you, closer towards your chest, and then a little bit away? And feel, how does that go through all of you? Your arm stays long and soft. You're not bending the elbow. You're not bending your elbow. You're not bending your elbow. And as much as possible, your head can stay on the floor. So if your arm's engaged, as I said, in really holding on, your neck won't be able to be soft. So if your knee needs to be a bit out to the side, that's fine. Don't worry if it's not directly to the ceiling. And feel, once you've found an easy way to do that, find another way. So for example, as you bring your knee to your chest, you feel that your chin goes away from your chest a little bit and your C7 lifts a little bit. Maybe you could find a way, what we were exploring the other day, where the back of your neck could get longer as you bring your knee to your chest. So you can feel that to bring your knee to your chest, your lower back has to round. It has to go down. But maybe these tiny variations in what your head's doing can allow your middle back to explore some different possibilities. And then begin to actually leave it, have a rest. So one of the things that you're really exploring here is, as you're doing it, is which parts of yourself get in the way of achieving your intention. Maybe it's a couple of ribs that want to tighten up. Maybe it's something in your breathing. Because this is what this work is about. It's about enhancing, expanding your self-image to really feel deeply in your sensory motor experience, how do I get in my way? Because the way you get in your way doing this movement's exactly the same way as you get in the way with everything else you do. So we're exploring this in a way that this isn't important. It's not important if you can do this movement. The movement's not going to make any difference to your life, but you being able to investigate that, when I do that, that's the part of me that stops being involved. It's the part of me that gets in the way. That's the part of me that I'll often push through. And they're simply levels of approximations, and as you continue to do this work, you discover more levels of approximation, more distinctions. So bend your knees again. Bring your right hand around your knee. Put this time your left hand behind your head. And again, do that little bit of rolling side to side. So you're not lifting your head, you've just got your left hand behind your head so that it can just soften your head a little bit. It's just going to maybe help you to connect your chest and your head a little bit more. So you want your elbow to be in a place where it's easy to move. And you're making this movement left and right as smooth, as easy. Feeling all these different shapes you can make through your middle. Where you don't have to hold your breath. Deeply, deeply into feeling your experience. And really notice as you're doing this movement, gently, easily, just taking your leg a little to the left, a little to the right. It doesn't have to be a big movement. How your back can keep softening into the ground. That it's not that you have to actively lift any part of yourself away from the ground, but you're using this movement just to soften more. What can soften into the ground? And then come back to where it's comfortable for you with your knees somewhere toward the ceiling or a little bit in or out. And now very gently begin to reach your knee a little bit away from you. And your intention here is, just hold on a minute, your intention is to take the whole of the sole of your foot toward the floor. So have you already got an idea of the trajectory that that has to be in? So don't get there straight away. Don't get there straight away. It's about exploring. And if you can stay in that playful, you can begin to give your intention up of where your foot has to go. But it's going forward. It's not going left. It's not going right. It's definitely going somewhere down to the ground in front of you. Yeah? Doesn't have to be straight down. Could be a little bit to the left or out to the right. And just feel, how does that pull through your torso? How many different ways can you find for that to go through? And your right arm stays soft and long. And just notice, do you have a bit of a habit? So some of you might find a habit that I always want to arch my back to do this. Arch my lower back to take, so as soon as I'm taking my knee away, I have to arch my back. Maybe there's a few different places, and again, it's not about reaching the floor. So leave your head down if you can. Leave your head down. Leaving your head down, you've got to find something more through your chest, through your ribs, through your upper back, through your throat, through your collarbones, through your shoulder blades. What has to happen in the other shoulder, in the other hip? Are they still in your image? Are they going to keep in the same relationship, or something have to happen there as well? Something changes between your left shoulder and your left hip, just as it's changing between your right shoulder and your right hip. And again, what's your head doing? Have you always got a pattern of it simply turning? What happens if it side bends? And your hand's there to help you, to maybe let your head have a few more possibilities. But you're really thinking it's the sole of your foot. It's not the outside of your foot. It's not the inside of your foot. Okay, and then use your left hand to lift your head and do the same thing with your head lifted. So lift your head off the floor and feel that taking your sole now to the ground, your head lifts further off the floor. So your head lifts a little bit more as you're taking your sole of your foot in the direction of the floor. And can you feel, what does that allow to happen for some of you through your middle, the great unknown? Can something round a little bit more in the middle that normally you don't give the opportunity to with your head lifted? Not only can it round, but maybe it can side bend a little bit, it can rotate a little bit. So let your head move through space. Let your head be carried along by these movements through your middle. And then let your head down again. Let your arm back from behind. And again, just gently try taking your sole of your foot. So your left arm's now by your side. And just see, did anything change? Did I feel anything from that last exploration? Some part in my middle, usually, that is now available. To take my soul more easily down to the ground. And many of you are now getting that your heel has to come close to your buttocks to do that. If you're trying to take your heel a long way from your buttocks, it's not going to make sense. So there's something we've done in the previous lesson about bending everything in your leg. Okay, leave it, have a rest. Roll to your left side. And just see how is that to lift your right leg at the moment away from the left. What happens now through the rest of you as you lift it? And then take your right hand and your right knee toward each other. Right hand and your right knee toward each other. Find the height that you want to be comfortable there. And now very, very gently, just listen to this instruction before you do it. You're going to think about sliding your right knee forward of your left. So your right knee is going to move in space. It doesn't have to be exactly where your left knee is, but you're thinking that you're sliding. So it's not that you're going closer to the ground, you're translating forward. Translating forward, and then you come back again. Feel, is this a different movement? To translate your leg through space, just gently, easily. What does your head do now? Where could your chin go? So really notice your head staying, is it rolling to allow you to do this? Or maybe there's a time when the chin lifts up or pulls down as you're sliding your right leg forward, translating it forward, and then translating it back again. And just starting to feel is your head getting a little bit lighter, because the lighter it gets, the more options you're going to have to allow it to do different things. So some of you might feel that your head's pretty light now and even wants to lift away from your arm a little bit to do this. If it doesn't feel that light yet, don't make it happen. Okay, leave that and come up to standing. Just come straight up after that. Just see, what do you sense? Where does your weight feel? How internal do you feel? Can you gradually bring in, if you're feeling very internal, just that there's an external world out there? And very, very slowly, can you take a step onto your right leg and just feel, go slow. What does your whole right side want to do? Does it want to get taller or smaller? Where does your head want to go? Does your head want to stay in the middle? Or does it want to move? Don't worry too much about the left. Just really feeling what's happening on the right after that lesson. And begin to sense, again, it's going to be dependent on your organisation, but for many of us after that lesson, we'll be going into a homolateral gait. Our head will be shifting through space to the right. We'll be getting smaller on our right side as we take weight. This is a little bit how Feldenkrais walks. It's a really beautiful way to walk slowly. Because you're really getting all of your weight onto one leg and then you transfer. Everything can come. The skeleton isn't getting tall at this point. It's so really feel that ability. What feels different one side to the other? Don't try and even it out. How do I really get a sense of what would this be valuable for? To really allow. So really feel as you come onto that right leg at the moment, how soft is your neck and your head? How easy is it maybe to give up some of this habitual work in your neck? And then begin to feel, because to do this you have to go slowly. A homolateral gait is a slower gait. It's not a fast gait. Just like horses, when we see them get faster, change their patterns. So once you've got a sense of that softening, stay soft, but just walk faster. And feel what starts to generalise as you get faster. Faster without hurrying. And feel that for many of us, as soon as we start to speed up, the contralateral gait will return, but it'll be There'll be something a little bit different about it. Maybe something a bit softer. And we'll take our morning break.